Broadcasting live from the basement of the Pentagon. This is WTF Nation Radio.
Good evening, WTF Nation Radio. It is Tuesday, 21 November in 2017. How's everybody doing tonight? I hope everybody's well. And as you can tell, I am Gray Cloud, and I am running solo tonight at the moment. My infamous partner, Minx, is out saving people, I think, with what she does. So it's just me tonight for a little while, I think, and we'll see if she can't break away and to come to us. So here it is. It's been a short week. Well, it's going to be a short week. And happy Thanksgiving to all you all, because I will not be around to wish you another Thanksgiving. Because I will be out. So what are we going to cover tonight? Well, there's some good shenanigans going on in the world, right? A little bit of happenings over in Asia. So we'll see what goes down tonight. Let's see here. So let's start with something that's really, really important tonight, and that is the releasings of Week 13 college football playoff picture. Very little movement in the top 10 from the college football playoff committee. So we'll get right to that. And again, number 1 Alabama, no surprise there. The big surprise, Miami moved up to number 2 from number 3, jumping Clemson, who comes in at 3. 4, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin rounding up at the top 5. Followed by Auburn, Georgia, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Penn State. That is the top 10 from the college football playoff committee. What I find interesting is that the only movement this week was Miami moving to 2 and Clemson being dropped to 3. Not sure I agree with that, but Clemson played well, and everybody's got a big test coming. Again, I go back to like last week, what we were talking about, and with all that, all this stuff. Yes, Doc, fuck the Tide. Everybody's all up in arms, and I heard it today, and I read the article and listened to Heather. I think it's Heather Dittrich today from ESPN, and there is this huge, I don't want to say, people think there's going to be this big conspiracy theory where it's going to be 2 SEC teams and 2 ACC teams that get into the college football playoff. I don't see that happening, and I think it's going to wash itself out here, because you have the Iron Bowl this week where Auburn is going to play Alabama, and if you saw them go up against Georgia, and the way Alabama played against, Mississippi State, I think Alabama's going to have its hands full with Auburn. And that'll be a great game, and that'll shake out a little bit, because if Auburn beats Alabama, Auburn goes to the SEC title game against Georgia, and then there's another rematch, and it could make things very, very interesting. On the other side, you have the ACC, where Miami is going to play Clemson for the ACC title game. Now, both of them would have what you consider a trap game coming up this week, and we'll see what happens. There's a lot to be said, and there's a lot to go down lately. So it'll wash itself out. What I would like to see is, what I find interesting is Wisconsin sitting there at number 5. If they win the Big Ten title game, everybody says they're a lock. I don't know. Depends on how they show up against Ohio State. As long as Ohio State wins against Michigan this week, Ohio State's going to the Big Ten title game. Now, the big scenario everybody's worried about is a 2-loss Big Ten champ getting into the playoff. Well, they're a champ, Power 5 conference. Should they be in? Maybe. But again, that's why the committee gets paid those big bucks to be on that committee and make those decisions. Oh, God. Really, Faith? You're going to roll for Alabama? Really? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So yeah, so that's the first part of the sports news we'll cover. So we're gonna roll right into the next sports article I found. This is on. I'm pulling this from Fox News. The article is 8 hours old, so it's from today. It's by Todd Starnes. Fan booted from college booster club for defending the national anthem. So this gets a little interesting. A 74-year-old basketball fan was booted from a community college booster club after he confronted an athlete who was shooting hoops during the national anthem. Jim Howard of Garden City, Kansas, had been a member of the Garden City Community College Booster Club for 32 years. His ouster is the result of an incident that occurred during the basketball team's season opener on November 1st. While the rest of the team was inside the locker room, a player, Rasul Samir, draw your own conclusions, came onto the court and began shooting hoops during the national anthem. Mr. Howard was furious over the blatant display of disrespect and came out of the stands at the conclusion of the anthem and had words with the athlete. Quote, I told him, if you don't respect the flag, get out of this gym. Get off the floor and get out of the gym. And he proceeded to tell me he didn't have to. Mr. Howard told Todd Starnes, the Todd Starnes Show, at least respect the people that paid for your scholarship to get you on this campus, like myself and everyone else in the gym. A campus police officer separated the pair, ordering Mr. Howard back to his seat and Mr. Samir off the court. The Garden City Telegram obtained a copy of the letter written by the college's attorney, noting a decision may be subsequently be made by the appropriate prosecutor whether battery, assault, or disorderly conduct charges should be filed against Mr. Howard. He says there's no physical context, just a close contact, heated conversation. It's ironic that a fan who was defending the national anthem could face disorderly conduct charges while the player who disrupted the national anthem does not. As for 19-year-old Mr. Samir, he is no longer on the basketball team, and it's not quite clear whether he was kicked off the team or if he resigned. Neither the school, its athletic department, nor the booster club returned messages for comment. The ACLU of Kansas has already taken sides, sending a letter to the community college demanding to know why Mr. Samir is no longer on the team. Samir was engaged in protected First Amendment activity when he declined to observe the national anthem, the ACU wrote in a letter to the school. Moreover, Samir's objection was motivated by his religious beliefs and thus was protected on free speech exercise grounds. If that is the case, why didn't Mr. Samir simply stay inside the locker room until after the national anthem had concluded? Why didn't he follow the coach's directive to stay inside the locker room? This was definitely an in-your-face, quote-unquote, move. He knew exactly what he was doing because he was waiting for it to happen, Mr. Howard told me. As for now, Mr. Howard has not faced any criminal charges for defending the national anthem. However, should he be arrested, I told him I would be honored to post his bail. Now, this just does not die. It just doesn't die. This keeps going and going and going, and it just doesn't want to go away. And I don't think it's going to go away, nation. I think this is going to be an issue for a really, really long time in our nation. And it will not matter who the POTUS is. It will not matter who our representatives are. And it will not matter how anybody feels, right? This is going to be an issue that we face, and this is one we're going to have to conquer together as a nation and as our own nation, you know, the community of vets that we have. So my question is this. How do we move past this? Because this has been bothering us for a really, really long time, all right? It bothers us as vets. It bothers us as active duty guys. It bothers those who have served in the past and those that are that have never served but, you know, feel it's wrong to disrespect the national anthem during that time. Now, as I have said before while broadcasting, that there is no issue. I have no issue with the protest. I don't. You know what? We as vets and soldiers defend that right for them to do that. However, I do take issue with the time they choose to do it. I think it could be done before and or after, such as when the Cowboys did it. They all took a knee before the national anthem, and then they all stood for the anthem. Okay? So it really becomes, how do we tackle this problem? hard to say. We'll have to see what happens from there. But so that's the sporting news right now. Other than my Broncos are in a downward spiral, and it sucks to be a Broncos fan right now. Let me tell you. Yeah. But hey, we still have more wins than the 49ers. Oh, what? Oh, Minx isn't here to defend that. That's okay. And Doc, before you ask, yes, I am drinking my 18-year-old Macallan, and it is delicious. All right, so what else we got? So if you guys are not really tracking international news or what's going on with the military in general overseas, there was an incident on the island of Okinawa. Is anybody else tracking this? I know I'm going to tell you anyway. But there was an incident on the island of Okinawa, and it involves a U.S. service member who was involved in a fatal car accident with a host nation national. Okay, so here we go. All U.S. service members in Okinawa have been restricted to their bases and residence and banned from drinking alcohol in response to a fatal traffic accident in the prefectural capital over the weekend. U.S. forces in Japan announced Monday. That prefecture is Okinawa, guys. The new restrictions follow an accident Sunday morning in Naha. Alcohol may have been a factor, USFJ said. Okay, may have been a factor. That's standard verbatim cover CYA stuff. The announcement follows the arrest of a Marine who was reportedly involved in an accident that resulted in the death of a Japanese man in Naha. In addition, U.S. service members elsewhere in Japan are prohibited from purchasing or consuming alcohol on or off base until further notice, the U.S. military said in a statement. The travel and drinking bans are the latest imposed by the U.S. in reaction to offenses committed by its personnel on the island prefecture. In May last year, U.S. officials in Okinawa banned off-base drinking after a civilian employee was arrested for allegedly murdering a Japanese woman in Uruma. On Sunday, PFC Nicholas James McLean, 21, was reportedly found with a blood alcohol level exceeding the legal limit after his 2-ton military truck collided with a mini truck at an intersection in Naha around 5:25 a.m. The driver of the mini truck, identified as 61-year-old Hidesima Ataria, was confirmed dead at a hospital. The Marine was arrested on suspicion of negligent driving resulting in death. A witness reportedly told the police that the military truck ran a red light and hit the mini truck as it was attempting to make a right turn. The vast majority of soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and civilians in Japan serve honorably and make a great contribution to the defense of Japan. When our service members fail to live up to the high standards we set for them, we set for them. It damages the bonds between bases and local communities and makes it harder for us to accomplish our mission, the USFJ said. On Sunday, Lieutenant General Lawrence Nicholson, Commanding General of U.S. Marine Forces Japan, said in a separate statement, "I would like to convey my deepest regret and sincere condolences to the family and friends of the Okinawan man who died as a result of this accident." However, Okinawan Governor Takeshi Onaga appeared unhappy Monday despite the U.S. apology and restrictions. Later on Monday, Onaga met with Nicholson and U.S. Consul General Joel. Oh, well, I'm going to slaughter this. Enerdrick, and handed them a letter of protest. Okay, so for those of you who've never been in Japan, handing a letter of protest is like the common way of protesting something that happened. Very, very, I don't want to say popular to do, but it's something they like to do. It's their formal way of protesting. They hand a letter, and that's their protest. Usually involves some marching and some other items, but the letter is very, very a formal way to protest. Every time such an accident takes place, the Okinawan prefectural government has urged the U.S. forces to make sure to implement preventative measures, enforce stricter discipline, and conduct thorough education programs. Despite our repeated requests, however, the accident took place taking a precious human life, Onaga said in the letter. We cannot contain our indignation, it said. In Okinawa, the site of fierce ground battles in the closing days of World War II, anti-military sentiment has remained strong among residents. Crimes and accidents committed by U.S. military members stationed there continue to fuel the sentiment. Right, and that's from the Japanese News Times that's printed in English. Let's see. Right, so then I have a statement, the actual restrictions placed in Japan. This is published by U.S. Forces Japan. Restrictions placed on U.S. service members in Japan. Effective immediately, U.S. service members on Okinawa are restricted to base and to their residences. Until further notice, alcohol consumption is prohibited. This includes in residence and public locations such as bars and clubs and hotels. Additionally, U.S. service members on mainland Japan are prohibited from purchasing or consuming alcohol on or off base. The new restrictions follows an accident Sunday morning in Naha, which a Okinawan man was killed when his vehicle was struck by a truck being driven by U.S. service member. Alcohol may have been a factor. There, that is again. Commanders across Japan will immediately lead mandatory training to address responsible alcohol use, risk management, and acceptable behavior. All military members and U.S. government civilians in Japan are required to attend. The vast majority of sailors and airmen, and civilians, and repeats the same item. Okay. So, nation. Here's my take on this, right? So the first thing I want to get out there, right? Okay, they say and this is the media doing this for you. 3 times the legal limit, all right? Great. In the US, that's 0.240, right? Because the legal limit across the US is 0.08. The legal limit in Japan is 0.03, right? So that means he had a BAC of approximately 0.09. If we are just using the straight 3 times. Now, all I'm trying to do is to put that into context, okay? For everybody to understand what they're talking about when they say 3 times the legal limit, right? Because the first take that their first response everybody has is, holy cow, this guy was fucking plastered. No, in theory, he could have had a beer or 2, okay? 0.08. Legal limit in the U.S., that's the standard everybody's used to in the U.S. and as service members. Okay? Now, there's no condoning the actions that he took. Okay? He was breaking Japanese law. He was breaking the military standard because we follow that same stuff. All right? There's no excuse for that. There's not. Now, to get to the other side of this, the military and its infinite wisdom of reactionary punishment, where it focuses on mass punishment to ensure that this doesn't happen. So I don't really understand why that's always a reaction, right? They want us to be responsible. They want us to, the high standards and all this other stuff, right? So the immediate response is always to punish everybody. Come down hard and fast across the board. Doesn't matter anything. Now, here's my question. Do you think that General Nichols is still enjoying a scotch or a beer in his residence? Do you think the USFJ commander is still enjoying a scotch or a beer in his residence, or a glass of wine as he entertains? Because this is going to be Thanksgiving, right? This is going to be the holiday season. So, do you think the standard is being fairly applied across the board? And do you actually think that they're going to attend their own mandatory training? That's the question I pose. And yes, it sucks that this Okinawan perished. And it sucks that this Marines life is probably now over as he ever knew it. But life's full of choices. And you have to live with those choices. So, the question becomes, should the punishment that is currently being handed out amongst the U.S. service members stand? I don't know. I'm at a loss on this one. Because I see... I would... So Justin, Dale, Bronco, I would agree. I have seen that on both sides. I have seen it. I've seen it. Do as I say, not as I do. Rules don't apply to me. Blah, blah, blah. It's very interesting to see that. And it really sucks that, they want to preach the standard and whatnot, but are they even going to go to this training? Will all the colonels be in that same room? Will the few generals that are there, will all those sergeants, command sergeants, majors be in that same training with private and specialist Snuffy and the sergeants? Oh, 1 second. WTF Nation Radio, you're on the air. Who's this?
This is me.
Oh my goodness, you are alive. Look at that.
I am very much alive. I heard a little bird tell me that you were talking shit about my team.
Well, it's easy when your team sucks.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. The 1-in-9ers.
Yes, the 1-in-9ers.
Although to be fair, if you think about it logically, the team that we beat was the New York Giants, and who have the Giants beat? Yes, thank you, Zeus. The Giants beat, who were they? I think it was the Chiefs, and who did the Chiefs beat? The Patriots. So, in a roundabout way, the Niners are the best team in the league right now.
God. That logic doesn't flow. But so have you heard any of the other conversations so far? Because I'll bring you up to speed real quick.
I know you were talking about college football. You brought up something about the service member who killed a Japanese citizen, and now service members stationed in Japan are no longer allowed to drink.
Yep.
Right?
That's where I was when you were calling in. And I asked, and it got brought up in the Facebook live chat that that anybody above E9 the standards don't apply to, and it's a do as I say, not as I do mentality in a lot of situations. And I have seen that. I have seen where it's do as I say, not as I do, which really sucks because they want to talk about standards and high standards and discipline and all this other garbage they preach to soldiers and the service members, regardless of branch. But yet those 06s, because that's the term I'll use right now, and above, and those E9s and above who want to say that, oh, this doesn't apply to me. Oh, I'm too fucking busy. Yet there's still real mission going on over there, but you're going to make everybody go attend this stand down training. But yet you cannot find yourself to lead from the front and set the example and be in the training with fucking Private Joe and Private fucking and Specialist fucking Snuffy and Sergeant Leader and all this other on and on and on. But yet you expect them to go and get this training and this PowerPoint garbage that it probably is, right? On, oh, alcohol is this and alcohol is bad and blah, 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 fucking blah. The same fucking safety stand down shit we get all the time, every quarter at a minimum, Okay. And for sure, every time this fucking shit happens. So set the fucking standard and lead from the front.
I get where you're coming from, and I completely agree. But let's face it, one, you never attended any of those because you were a warrant, and you always, were ghosting out. So let's not pretend that you were there.
I attended many of them as a warrant, and many more as an enlisted soldier. So,
right, I mean, details.
Because now I may not have been at the one that my Joes were at, but I sure shit made sure I got to the training because it applied to me as well. And that's what the boss said.
Right.
Okay.
But I completely understand where you're coming from, and I've seen it many, many, many times in my decade of service of these people who, want to claim the title of leaders but don't lead. And they're more of a dictator, and that, it's like, I'm better than going to that training, but all you motherfuckers need to go. And if you guys don't go, then I'm gonna be up your ass about it.
Right.
But yet when it comes to them, they just pencil whip their shit and say oh yeah, no, I was there.
Yep. Now this is a rumor I heard from that system that's possibly coming to the rest of the Army that's being used at the Combined Arms Center out there at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, is a scanning system, right? So when you go to this training, you scan in using your CAC. It scans you in, right? But if you go to leave, you have to scan out.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then, so let's say you had to run to your, run to the office to get something, or you're coming back or whatever. So you scan out. So it captures that scan out at whatever time, okay? And then you have to scan back in to reattend the training, and then you scan back out again when the training's complete.
Oh, tricky.
So if you have to scan in now during the training, it could make life difficult for some seniors, perhaps, maybe.
Ooh.
Just saying.
Oh, did you tell everyone? I'm so sorry. Did you tell everyone why they're seeing you and not me tonight?
Yes, I told them you were out saving lives or some garbage.
Oh yeah. So one, I'm on call. So there's those shenanigans. So yeah. So I could literally be called in, and then I have to be like, oh, gotta go, bye. And then two, I just moved, so I have no interwebs.
Well,
so,
that's just terrible planning, apparently.
I mean, they called and said, hey, do you want this house? And I said, yes. And then they're like, okay, well, do you want to move in today? Yes.
Sure. Let me do this now.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, no, so it's, it goes back to this whole, mass punishment. That's always the military's first reaction, mass punishment. That's the knee-jerk reaction they come to. And it's just really shitty, okay? Right? It is just really shitty. I saw an awesome... so Kaz brings up a good point in the Facebook live chat. The quote-unquote, I was briefed, right? And I think Ice could chime in on this, and that's how that... what was that? A colonel or whatever burned in from a jump.